All right, so this video explains the way to use the indirect function, which we are choosing to use to make our processing of survey data easier to do. The formula, the function itself is complicated, but once you understand it, it definitely makes collecting the data from the sheets into one place much easier than it would be otherwise. Otherwise you do cut and paste, or you do a macro that does cut and paste. And so mastering this formula, this function, can really help. So to start with, let's just lay the groundwork. So we have a spreadsheet, and this is a snapshot from the spreadsheet. Here are the tabs at the beginning of the spreadsheet. They carry on past this. This is 2, in parentheses it carries on through 24, and those are the sheets that contain the data. Now afterwards is also the end tab. It's a blank tab like this start tab, and those bookends I referred to in another video as one way, which is described in summary 2, for gathering basic statistical information from the sheets in a grouped way. However, this process here using indirect brings all of the data from all of the sheets, all the quantitative data from all of the sheets, into one place. The comments tab uses the same function to collect all of the comments from all of the sheets. The beauty of this obviously is if you add 2 more sheets or 20 more sheets, as long as you use the move copy process where it simply keeps increasing the number in the parentheses as you add sheets, it's a very effective way of gathering information precisely from each sheet. So how do we do it? This is C3, you can see that. C3 is circled. The 1 is being collected. If this was an actual spreadsheet, I could click on the tab here over to 1, and I would see that that is the value in C3 on that sheet. So how do I get that? Actually, will it be C3? No, I'm sorry. It won't be. It will actually be A4. The spreadsheet, this setup here has extra columns and rows, so it actually moves it over from where you would find the value you wanted. It's for the first question, or the first statement, the responses to whether the statement is true, and this is, like I said, survey 1. So if we showed the whole sheet, this would go over to 24. And because all of our statements for the true are in column A, and they're in rows 4 through 16, that's why we have the framework set up the way we do. So in here, like I said, basically this is going to access a single value from another sheet based on using the function. So what is the indirect function? What goes into it? Basically, it's one piece of stuff that's combined. Now I could just actually type this whole thing into indirect, but then that means I would have to write a new function for each individual cell, which of course I don't want to do. I can do it, but if I use this, I can write my function once, and these colored locations are variables that grab values from here and from here, so that it writes a new function for each cell, which therefore gets a new value. So, like I said, the result of what's here is that it tells Excel, put this or treat this value of the cell as being according to this function here. So the equals is only here once, but in here, if you notice, this is a double quote that matches up with another double quote. I'm sorry, this one right here. Every time you see an ampersand, that means I'm sticking things together. It's like the glue. So here's my first piece, okay, parentheses is the indirect, and then right away with this quote to this quote, from here to here, that's a piece of information that it's supposed to say. This would be like in the if function, when if something's true, say this, or remember we did two double quotes together with nothing in between to say nothing. So if it's blank, say nothing. Well, here in this case, it's say this, and then with that, say this, and then say this, and then say this, and then say this. The confusing part is keeping track of the quotes, but if you are careful, well, that's why I've colored it in here. You can see the colored parts refer to locations. So C2, and it's a $sign because we're locking the 2 for when we copy it. But the C2 is right here. So it's going to bring in this value into the function because we ask for C2. And then this colored part here, you see it has $sign B3. We're locking the column because we need to copy it. But B3, if you look, is this value here. So the net result then, if you think of those colored parts going to here, so the C2 puts a 1 in to my statement, and the B3 puts a 4 into my statement. Now what does this say? Well, this says I want the value in the cell equal to this tab, which of course is here. Here's the tab. That's saying this tab, go into that tab, and the exclamation mark tells we're done talking about the tab, and then here's A4. So it's going to look for A4 in that tab. Now think about it. If I copy this to here, the A4 will stay the same. Okay, it's still looking in column B, and it'll still be in row 3. If I go across, this one now is going to say A4 as well, but it's going to change the top part. So instead of saying C2, the next one will say D2. Well, what's in D2? Well, D2 is a 2. So then this in that cell will change to a 2, and it will now look to this sheet, because this is the 2. It will look for A4 in that sheet, and that's what will be brought back here. So all the way across here, this is bringing back the responses from A4 in each of those sheets. If you go down, then of course within within the first sheet, within sheet parentheses 1, this is the response to the second statement, third statement, fourth statement, and so on. So once it's set up like this, you can copy it. I added a border or two just to make it look nice. The next step would be to get rid of the no responses by changing them to blanks. You could probably, once you get all of this in here, copy paste values so that you can manipulate it, or the other way of course is just copy paste values into another sheet and leave this in case some stray surveys show up and you need to add it to the sheet and then to the formulas. That, my friends, is using the indirect function.